In this video, we will show you how to replace your air conditioning condenser. Let's get started. Before we get started on our job, make sure that you evacuate your refrigerant from inside the AC system. Make sure that the engine and the cooling system is cool to the touch. Make your way over here to the cap on the coolant reservoir. We'll turn this counterclockwise and slowly lift it up and away from our face, releasing pressure from inside of the cooling system. Once you've done that, we can put this cap back on. Move along to this hose. Use some pliers, squeeze the clamp, slide it down, remove the hose from the reservoir. Give it a quick check, make sure it's still soft and pliable and it's not torn, worn, or damaged in any way. The next thing that we'll do is remove the 8mm headed mounting bolt that holds the reservoir to the fan. Continue on by lifting the reservoir up and off of the fan shroud and twist it, setting it off to the side. Continue on over to the driver's side of the fan shroud. You'll find that you have your power steering reservoir with 8mm headed bolt. Remove the bolt and set this aside as well. Underneath where that reservoir was, you'll find a wiring harness that leads to the fan. Right where my thumb is, there's a rectangular squeeze tab. Squeeze that in and separate this. Once you have it apart, give it a quick check for corrosion and then set it aside. Now, if you were to look underneath the upper radiator hose, you're going to find that there's an 8mm headed bolt holding the fan to the radiator. Remove that 8mm headed bolt. Once that's out of there, make your way over to the other side of the fan and remove that 8mm headed bolt as well. Just underneath that mounting bolt, you'll find an area where your two transmission cooler lines are held in place to the fan shroud. Carefully separate that. Make your way back over to the driver's side. You'll find that there's an area where wiring is attached to that fan shroud. Go ahead and pop that out of place. Now let's reach down to the bottom of the fan shroud. You're going to find that you have your lower radiator hose. Go ahead and lift that up and pull it away from the plastic bracket. Now let's reach down into this area, grab onto the fan assembly, give it a little wiggle while lifting it up. Carefully remove it from the vehicle. Now let's move along to removing this plastic panel. You're going to find 3 push clips. These push clips are very easy. Grab the top, turn them counterclockwise, and lift it up and out. We'll just take those 2 pieces, rest them together. There should be one right in the center here. Ours is missing. And then one at the far end. Once you have all those out of there, go ahead and grab onto this and remove it from the vehicle. Let's move along to removing this area along the top of the radiator. Just lift this right up and off of here. Give it a quick inspection and set it aside. Okay, now we can move along to removing the air conditioning lines from the AC condenser. You want to be extremely careful when you start removing these. There could still be a little bit of pressure inside of the system. We'll use a 13mm socket to remove each of the mounting nuts. Continue on to the lower line. Next, looking down in the same area, except along the front of the AC condenser, you're going to find that you have an 8mm headed bolt that holds a bracket. That bracket holds the radiator and the AC condenser in place. Once we have this side separated and the bracket out of the way, we'll continue on along the other side of the AC condenser radiator assembly. Continue on with a curved pick. Make your way down underneath that bracket and gently lift it up and rearward. After that, make your way over to the other bracket, do the same thing. While we're over on this side, continue on to removing the air deflector from the AC condenser. There's a couple little plastic push clips there. You can pop those out of place. Make your way over to the other side of the AC condenser and do the same thing. Now we can pull this backwards a little bit and remove our 8mm headed bolt on the passenger side. At this point, you can separate the AC condenser from the radiator on the passenger side. Let's make our way under the front of the vehicle. Continue on by removing each of your air baffles. The next thing that you will want to do is remove the transmission cooler lines from the bottom of the air conditioning condenser. On ours, they're frozen to the fitting itself, so I will be cutting these and replacing them. For you, just use a 16mm wrench, turn these counterclockwise to remove each of them from the condenser. The next thing that we'll do is remove the power steering cooler from this area. Looking along each side of the air conditioning condenser, you're going to find that you have a black tab that's located on the radiator and it holds the power steering cooler to it. Go ahead and carefully pull that black tab away using a large pick and lift up on the power steering cooler. Once you have one side broken free, continue on over to the other side. Make your way back up top and carefully lift up the AC condenser without damaging your radiator. Okay friends, let's start preparing our brand new air conditioning condenser. On this, along the top, you're going to find that you have covers that cover the air conditioning ports. Use a 13mm to remove the mounting bolt and then remove the protective plate. With your kit, you'll find that it came with 2 brand new studs. Each of those studs go into their corresponding ports. To install these ports, use your original mounting nuts. We're going to start one of these on here. Leave a couple threads. Take your second nut and mount it directly against that one, essentially double nutting it. Now just make sure they're nice and tight, and we can continue on putting the small side of the threaded area into the AC condenser. Make sure it's nice and snug. Remove each of those mounting nuts and do the same thing to the other side. When we take this, we're going to have to make sure we're over towards the passenger side as we slide this into position. Carefully slide this down, making sure we do not damage any of the cooling fins. Now let's make our way back underneath the vehicle. It's time to start aligning the air conditioning condenser with this area of the radiator. To do this, you need to be coming towards the passenger side, slide it down, and then slide it towards the driver's side to lock it in position. Make sure it's lined up along both sides as you do so. Once you feel as though you have it aligned, continue on by sliding it over. Now we can continue on to our power steering cooler. You want to make sure that it sits inside the grooves on either side of the radiator. Let's get it lined up, slide it down in. Let's continue on by putting in our 8mm headed bolt that holds the AC condenser to the radiator. Once it's started in, just go ahead and snug it up. Let's slide that bracket into place on both sides of the radiator. Put in your 8mm headed mounting bolt and snug it up. Do the same to the other side. Carefully put your power steering cooler back in place. Let's get this side as well. Just bring it up and over those clips, slide it down. Make your way over to reconnecting your transmission cooler lines. Make sure that's nice and tight. Do the same to the other. Now we can put on the passenger side air baffle. Once you have it at the proper height, go ahead and start in the bottom. Now we can move along to our air conditioning lines. You'll notice on these, each of them has two gaskets. One's flat like this, and the other one is an O-ring. It's important to make sure that you clean and inspect them. Replace them as necessary. Once it's cleaned and inspected, continue on by adding some PAG oil directly to the seal. Now we can put on our other seal as well, making sure that we lubricate this as well. Take the bottom line and slide it into position. Put on your 13mm mounting nut, snug it up, and then torque it to 133 inch-pounds. Do the same to the other line. Let's carefully take our fan assembly and slide it into position. Now, once we have that going down into position, pay attention along each side of the radiator. You'll have the area where your mounting bolt needs to be, and then directly below that, you're going to find that you have a hook on the radiator. The fan needs to slide down into that hooked area on both sides. Once it's in position, start in both of your mounting bolts. Once you have the bottom in there, continue on to starting in both of your mounting bolts and snug them up. That one's nice and tight. We'll do the same on the other side. Now let's have a look down along the bottom of the fan. Go ahead and put the lower hose back into its original position. Let's slide this in. Let's put on this plastic piece. Line that up so it's centered and press it down. Reconnect in your fan assembly. Listen for a click, give it a tug to make sure it's secured. Continue on to your power steering reservoir. You'll notice in the fan shroud, you have a slot right here, and on the bottom of the reservoir itself, you'll have a little nub that protrudes down. Should fit right into there. Line up your mounting bolt hole. After that, go ahead and snug it right up. Now we can continue on with the coolant reservoir. Down along the bottom, you have the area that protrudes down. Just underneath that, on the fan itself, you'll have an area for it to slide into. Let's get that lined up and slide it down into position. Let's get this hose on here. Install your clamp. Let's continue on with our forward upper cowl. Slide that in position. Once it's on there, continue on with each of your push clips. Now, when you install your AC condenser, it's important to make sure that you add at least 1 ounce of manufacturer-specified PAG oil to the AC system. After that, have a professional recharge the air conditioning system.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.